plateaued, or maybe just an athlete who's looking for some extra tips to guide themselves on their journey to becoming the best at whatever they're trying to be the best at in the fitness division, this video is for you. I'm hoping to give you some tips and tricks that I've picked up along the way throughout my history as an athlete. I have been in sports since I was 3 years old, and not just soccer. My mom was a black belt in karate. She was a sensei, so we were in karate from 3 years old onward, and then that evolved into baseball, not softball, into dance, into bodybuilding. I competed in a bodybuilding competition in the fitness division, placing third. I'm about to run my first marathon. I've had a long career in sport. And these are 3 things that I'd like to share with you if you are looking to navigate this without a coach. So the first thing that I'll dial in on is nutrition. And this is super important, and it's dependent on your goals and on you. Each individual is unique, so what their macro split is going to be and what's going to be most optimal for them is going to be dependent on their goal. The first thing I'll say is, if you can afford a professional, hire a professional. I am so on board with that. If you can afford it, hiring a dietitian specifically would be best, or somebody who has like a sports background for nutrition if you can. If you cannot, there are plenty of websites, and I'll actually link a couple of those below for you to go onto, that can gauge your approximate calorie count for each day, dependent on what you're doing. That is what you're going to use as a baseline. And I want you to keep in mind that that is adjustable dependent on who you are. It's an online website, so you're just plugging in information, and it doesn't know you, right? It doesn't know your experience, your history, your baseline, fitness, nothing. So it's giving you an idea of what your calorie intake could be. And then you have to play with it from there. And I would say it's been quite spot on within a 200 calorie range, either lower or higher. So find your baseline calories dependent on what you're doing, dependent on your output, and it will actually give you a breakdown of what those are. And then play with your macros from there. So you can go onto a bunch of different websites and find what macro split that you can have. I'll include one of those below as well. You can start with that as a baseline as well. However, what I want you to keep in mind if you're doing this on your own is how frequently you have energy dips. Because if you're eating the right amount of calories, but you're still having energy dips, that means that you likely have an incorrect split, meaning that your carbs might be too low for what you're doing, or your fats might be too high, or your proteins might be too low. Women struggle with this severely. This is what I work with my female athletes on, is just trying to get their protein intake up, and quality protein intake. So just starting to look at your nutrition as an athlete, as a beginner, somebody who's plateaued and wanting to improve, or as an athlete in general, and remembering that each new goal has a different requirement from you, and each new goal is going to use different energy stores, and each new goal is going to require a different level of energy, and energy is coming from your food. So just these are different things to keep in mind, but this is at least a start. Find out what your starting range of calories is for your current goal. As that goal shifts, ensure that your calories shift accordingly, up or down, and you can do this as many times as you need, and then play with your macros to find what best suits you. Everybody's unique, so some people do really well on low carb and some people do not. I am one of those people. I do not. I need a high carb low diet right now, especially with my marathon prep. And I notice it when I don't have it. If I've failed to eat enough carbs throughout the day, I am so tired. And then it's this magic that happens after I have a bagel that I'm wide awake, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's such a simple solution. Take your nutrition seriously, though. The second point would be your programming. Okay, so if you don't want to hire a coach, and of course I will always recommend hiring a coach if you have the money available to you, or a program that you feel safe in if you have the money available to you. However, if you don't, there's so much information online, and that can be a good and a bad thing. It can be quite overwhelming. figure out what your goal is. If your goal is weight loss, it's going to be a much different program than if your goal is to run a 10-kilometer run, or if it's to, participate in an amateur bodybuilding competition or a pro bodybuilding competition. All of these things will be different. I think we can all agree on that, right? As my goal shifted, my training has significantly shifted as well. Things for you to think about if you're a beginner. What is your goal in the next 6 months? If it's just to build up baseline fitness, getting your butt to the gym and just being persistent in your pursuit of fitness is the most important thing for you at that point. It's building that base. If your goal is to compete as an amateur bodybuilder in the next 6 months, then that's going to be a much different approach, where you're going to need to look at actually what your body looks like, where your symmetry lies, where you are imbalanced, and then start to focus in on those areas to build them out. If your goal is to up level, like I want to do strength training, I want to build my strength output for powerlifting purposes or for Olympic lifting purposes, or just because I want to be as strong as B, because sometimes you're just as strong as B. Then focusing in on your compound movements that are going to support you in the possibility of a competition in the future is a good way to go about this. And also watching and listening to other athletes. There's so many people on YouTube that give you full breakdowns of how they started in their realm. And because these things are so particular, I would highly recommend watching a range of athletes so that you can pick and choose which things work best for you. What I've done in the past, and I've found super beneficial, is watching a range of athletes, finding what is the same in all of their stories, meaning like what do they all do? What are the things that each of them do in their workouts? Every single one of them. What are the movements that all of them across the board are doing, except for even if it's just one left out, doesn't matter. The majority are doing this one movement, that gets brought in. That's like a non-negotiable. It's like, okay, that one is necessary. Great. And then what are the ones that I just want to pick and choose? What are the ones that I'm interested in that I think I would enjoy doing? Because I have to enjoy actually showing up to the gym. I have to enjoy actually doing what I want to do. So I pick and choose a few that I can bring into there, and then I bring in ones that I'm already confident in, so that when I'm going to the gym every single time, I have something that I am very confident in. I have something new that I know will build me towards my goal because it's been beta tested through all of these people. And then I have ones that I'm just trial and erroring and having fun with. So find your program through the work of other people. You don't have to do all the work that they did. That's the best part. That's why all of this information is online, and go from there. The third thing is your mind. So I would say, above nutrition and the program, your mind is everything. And the number one thing that I will say right now is consistency is important. Consistency is not about perfection, it's about persistence. I would love for anybody that's watching this to write that down and state, like, consistency is not about perfection, it's about persistence. Going to the gym and moving and getting your butt there as much and as frequently as you can is an amazing start, and then building on that and building on that and building on that. At this point in my athletic life and my athletic career, I'm at a point where I watch Olympic athletes on YouTube to encourage me to get my butt to the gym, because I don't have a coach for this marathon prep. I'm coaching myself. And I found value in having a coach for me mentally as accountability. Now I am accountable to myself for following through. And every time I watch these athletes, I'm like, man, if they're able to get up and get their butts there, I can. And my output's not going to look the same as theirs because I'm not an Olympic athlete, but I do know that I have the ability to do the same things. And so I surrounded myself online with a community of people who are at a level that is above me, but still reachable. I don't put them on a pedestal. They're still people. So that's my method. You don't have to do the exact same thing, but find ways of creating that safe space and consistency, and finding that attachment and that grounding into persistence. Get your butt moving. It doesn't matter how. And if you can't get your butt moving, do research. That's just as valuable. It's just as valuable, and it still helps you pursue your goals. And then from there, be bored. Learn how to be bored. It's like the number one thing that I could ever tell to any single person. Learn how to be bored. Instead of having to have screaming music in your ears or something in your mind to be distracting you from the actions you're taking, be with your actions and learn how to be bored so that you can eventually become grounded. Boredom is horrible. I get it. I know. I can't think of anything worse than to sit on a bike with no headphones on at a very low RPE and just like bike for an hour on end. It sounds like torture to me. However, being bored in that action, you find an attachment to the movement that is something that you cannot have when you are one step separate from it, meaning you are distracted from it, meaning you have something else that is in the way of you actually connecting to that movement. And the more you can connect to the movements, the more you can connect to your body, and the more you can connect to your body, the more that your mind and your body work together to push through those hard points. Your mind will try to fail you before your body does. Your body is going to carry you through that point, and when your body starts failing, your mind will check in, and your mind will carry you through when your body is starting to slow down. So it's like you need them both to be online, to be supporting each other like a solid relationship between two partners. I hope that makes sense. I hope that this is valuable to you. If you've heard these before, awesome. What would you add to the list? I would love to hear. Comment below, or even just DM me, whatever it might be. And I'll keep making these. And, as I learn things, hopefully I can just translate them over and help others so that they don't have to go through the process of hours and hours of research on end like I am. I love you all. You are so much more powerful than you will ever understand or know or grasp. And I feel the same way about myself. There's moments where I'm like, oh man, like, can I really do this? And then I do it, and it's just the best. It's just the best. And so I hope we can continue to grow together and become unbreakable in time. I'll catch you next week.